Artificial intelligence. It's risen to one of the top topics of conversation. Will we ever create flawless robots? Will they take our jobs? Will they try to take over our world? Many questions left unanswered, but one thing is certain. It is here, and currently it's taking over aspects of our life like never before. As a student, I notice more and more people using ChatGPT to help with research or homework. I've personally used it with coding and research for my videos. But how does this affect gaming? And how might this actually change the medium as we know it? Hello and welcome, fellow virgins. It is iSuperVirgin here, and today I'd like to talk to you about how AI will change gaming for like never before. I'd say the first time a sort of AI was used in video games was quite a while back, 10 years back, with a small game called Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. And with Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, they used a nemesis system where the game remembered what enemies killed you, what their relationship was with you. Of course, pretty much every single time it was just bad relationships where you fought each other and they hated you, or they just, sometimes they did actually love you. Those were aspects of the game system. But that was the first time where sort of a system was added that you could kind of relate to what AI is nowadays, where it kind of remembers and tries to personalize the gameplay towards you. Now, of course, this doesn't come close to what AI is nowadays, but we do have to look at this aspect back in the day because, like I said, this is 10 years ago. The game released in 2014. That is an impressive feat to have, knowing how AI only really recently blew up. I'm looking at something like ChatGPT. That wasn't the case a couple of years back, but now, 10 years ago, we had that. So pretty cool. Then we fast forward 5 years, because in 2019, there was a very small little game called AI Dungeon that was released. It was a text-based game where primarily it was about a fantasy game. Pretty much all you had to do was you got a prompt and it said, okay, you are this character. For instance, you're a king fallen from grace, or you're just a farmer going on the adventure life, you know, stuff like that. All you had to do was just say, okay, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go and do that. And then the AI would respond saying, okay, when you go over here, you find a cave, and surrounding the cave are a bunch of wolves. Do you fight the wolves? This and that. It would ask these kind of questions. Now, it was still very early, and after its release, I played it, but I haven't played it since. You know, it's been 5 years since. It wasn't really that good when it originally released. The problems I had with it was that you would tell it like, hey, I'm gonna go and do this, and then 2 or 3 prompts later, it just completely forgot what you were talking about, what you were doing. And I hope that it's gotten better. Like I said, I haven't really touched it since 2019. But what I can tell, it's still going strong. It's getting high ratings. It's also on mobile. You can go and check it out yourself. It's definitely a very cool type of game. But it does beg the question, what if instead of a text-based game, this happens to bigger games, right? If you're looking at The Witcher 3, what if every single quest you got and the monsters in those quests and what was all AI generated? In a way, that would be extremely cool, but how does that work? The same goes for instance, just characters. Instead of just monsters like The Witcher 3, like just characters, the quests they give, items you find, what those stats on those items are, all of that could be AI generated and could, in a way, personalize the gameplay to what you as a player want the game to be, right? Or I go and play a certain fantasy RPG, my friend does the same. I go down one road, that road doesn't even exist, right? The map just being fully AI generated. Like, how far does this go, and how far will we bring AI to make these things, while on the other hand having game developers make these things? There's honestly, I think, a fine line, and I think it's on one end very fascinating to have AI make this, but at the same time, if AI is making this, what is the use for developers? And I don't mean to say that in a bad way, but more like that's how CEOs, that's how companies are going to think about this, okay? So let's just not go too far. Another reason why I do actually want us to think about this, right? How AI might just change gaming is just how it's blown up in the last couple of years. Like I already said, ChatGPT, that wasn't talked about a couple of years back, but now it is just, it's the new Wikipedia, honestly. A lot of times when people look something up, back in the day, it was always like, oh yeah, don't use Wikipedia as a source. Now it's, oh, don't use ChatGPT as a source. And people are gonna keep saying that. I have gotten some very valuable information from ChatGPT, and all you really have to do when you get information from it is just, not blatantly take the information and just go, it'll be fine like that. Because right now it's not in the state to deliver perfectly human responses every time. When I talk about this, how, it's not really that human and how there's less creativity from this AI, it brings a lot of problems with it. Because when you look at a story of a game, or you look at a game world, like I said, its characters, items, whatever, everything is AI generated, how good is that going to be, right? Like, will we get the same quality as The Witcher 3, right? Can we make an RPG and just deliver it like the AI a world, tell it the rules of the world and give it some information on, let's say, a D&D book, and we tell it like, hey, here, use what you can of this and make us a fantasy game? Will it be any good? Like, if we get real high quality stuff out of this, I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. Again, though, because, if the quality is good, we will have a giant loss of jobs, which is actually already happening right now at EA. There is a article talking about this. Electronic Arts is laying off 5% of its workforce, or around 670 of the company's workers. EA employed around 13,400 people by the end of last March. 65% of those employees are located outside the US. It's said at the time notifying impacted employees has already begun and will be largely completed by early next quarter. Wilson also said EA is moving away from development of future licensed IP that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industry. Instead, it will focus on owned IP, sports, and massive online communities. And that's coming from EA, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be bad. Do not expect that company to deliver quality products anymore. But let's continue. We are also leading through an accelerating industry transformation where player needs and motivations have changed significantly. Fans are increasingly engaging with the largest IP and looking for us to broader experiences where they can play, watch, create content, and forge deeper connections. Our industry exists at the cutting edge of entertainment, and in today's dynamic environment, we are advancing the way we work and continuing to evolve our business. Lots of fancy words, lots of promises, lots of, hey, the player wants this, we'll deliver it to them, but very little gets delivered by EA, especially the focused on owned IPs, sports, and massive online communities. They're just gonna make stupid slop. It's not going to be good. But I've talked about these layoffs in another video, so definitely go check that one out. The real spit in the face with this is just all these people getting laid off, right? We have 670 people getting laid off, and it doesn't seem like a giant amount, right? 5% of its workforce, but knowing that EA employed so many people, 13,400 by last March, and is already going to now throw away a bunch of those people. And there's a second article that I'm going to quote here. They're being replaced by AI. Genuinely. EA also made a statement about this, and the CEO talked about this. It was laughed at, just really laughed at, about, a future where 3 billion people used AI. They used AI to create content for his games. He was talking about how 3 billion people would be playing EA games, which is just absolutely insane. Who the hell really just trusts this company anymore? Anyhow, I'll quote the article here. The development cycle is a very iterative and incredibly time-consuming, which is why games are now taking 6 and 7 years to build as they've gotten bigger and deeper, said Wilson. That is honestly completely true. They take long and true. So the first thing for us is, how do we make that more efficient? Well, that one has an easy answer. Apparently, according to EA's own studies, about 60% of all our development processes have high feasibility to be positively impacted by generative AI. This is EA. The chance that they'll actually speed up their development process to deliver more games instead of delivering one game completely made by AI, or as much made by AI as they want, the 60% here, while not delivering this faster, is very, very likely. They will be doing layoffs. They're already doing it now. They will be slowly but surely just doing more and more layoffs while AI takes its place. So people are getting replaced by AI in this in the game development sector right now. And then they're just gonna do their annual release of their sports games, and it's still gonna be shit, and it's EA. Now, I do not want to take away the fact that, AI could be useful for programming. It can be useful to speed up this process. In a way, what he's saying is kind of true. It does sometimes take years to develop one game, right? A quality game. But when you replace actually talented people for AI, definitely at this point in how AI works compared to, maybe in 5 or 10 years, it's quite insane, because in my eyes, that looks more like laziness, right? It just screams laziness to me, because instead of having to pay for workers, you pay for an AI. And in most cases, it's just, I don't even know how they do it. I don't know if they use an API. I don't know if they just buy ChatGPT, whatever. I don't know what AI they use, honestly, but some of these AI tools are even free. So who knows how much of a difference that pay is. Instead of having to pay a bunch of workers a couple of thousand, you just pay an AI tool, which is not even a couple hundred a month. It's insane. That, of course, also depends on how many people use it. I know, but still, we have to look at perspective wise. That is a giant amount of money that doesn't have to get spent. 670 workers getting laid off here. Of course, again, it's no surprise EA is the company doing this. We'll probably see Ubisoft follow the same stuff again. I'm thinking maybe Blizzard as well. We'll have to see, but many companies are going to be taking this as long as people will accept this. So, as I've already quoted in another video, do not pay for games made purely by AI. Support talented people, and honestly, just support indie games. I've talked about this in my previous video. Just go check that one out. Indie games are doing extremely well, and they're extremely good. As I've said before, though, it is kind of cool to look at a game and think to yourself, what if a game can be made completely by AI? Like I said, where you have this farmer going on an adventure, or this king falling from grace and trying to, get his name out of the dirt, stuff like that. It would be really cool to have an AI just play the game, or rather just give you the game and you can play it on a set of rules that is made by developers. But at the same time, this would mean that a new game could be released every few months, right? A new game like Skyrim, for instance, but it's completely AI generated. And at that point, why would you play a different game? Because now you have quests and you have items and you have this and that is all made by AI. So when you just reload the game, it's just the same. It's different. It's not the same. It's different. So how does that all work, right? It's why would you buy a second fantasy RPG? It's a bit of a weird situation, and I think we're definitely in a turning point of the utilization of AI in video games. Now, before I do talk about the last point of the video, I'm going to just kindly ask you to leave a like on this video. You've made it pretty far into it, and if you enjoy this type of content, why not subscribe to the channel? I know I'm a smaller channel, but it really does help. Every Thursday and Saturday, I will be giving gaming commentary just like this. Now, another cool thing that recently was talked about and that I recently found out about was Nvidia. They recently had their own AI tool called the Project G Assist. And Project G Assist is actually not that difficult. It's not that special, but it is definitely a cool little tool. You can use it to kind of ask questions about the game. So for instance, you're playing an action RPG and you're doing a certain kind of build, but you don't know which weapon best suits that. You don't know which boss you have to farm to get that weapon. Bunch of questions. You would usually look that up online. But now with Project D Assist, it can actually look into the files of the game and it can actually look up online. And you could ask the question, hey, I want to have this build. What do you suggest where I am right now in the game? And it will just tell you what it thinks is the best way of going through this. Same goes for having to look at enemies, right? You see a new enemy, you're like, oh, I don't know what this enemy is. What are its resistances? How does this enemy work? What moves does it have? You can ask all these different questions. Now, it's kind of like ChatGPT, except of course the difference now is that it runs during your game and it's not just text-based. You don't actually have to type in the middle of a game because, that kind of takes away from the gameplay experience. You can just ask this through your mic. You can just be like, hey, what's that? And that's the cool part of this AI tool. It can actually analyze what is going on your screen. Nvidia used Arc, where he was looking at a dinosaur and asked, hey, what's this dinosaur? How do I tame this dinosaur? And it actually in detail told it, like, you have to do this, bring it to this health, then you have to use this item and whatnot. And it's like, it was like a whole plan to it. I really, really think that is a cool tool. But personally, I wouldn't overuse it, as it does take away from the, it does spoil parts of the game, right? If you see a new enemy and you just go, hey, what's that enemy? And it tells you, cool on one end, but it kind of takes away. That's of course your own liberty. I personally wouldn't use it for a lot of cases, but it takes away the having to alt tab in a game or having to take your phone out when you're playing on console, or I don't know how it works on console when you want to look something up, but having to get away from the game, that no longer is required. And soon it will kind of be, it is usable, I think, right now online. It is something like a service that you can use on the cloud, but with their newest GPUs, they actually do have generative AI parts in there. I don't know how exactly it all works, but I do know that it can speed up the process. So if you have one of those new GPUs, you can actually be a lot faster when you're asking these questions. Otherwise, it actually does have to have an internet connection and you have to ask the cloud, basically. Now, I am curious to hear what you guys think. Is AI going to be good for game development? Is it going to be bad for game development? Is it going to replace game developers entirely? Many questions left unanswered, and only time will really tell, but I do want to hear your opinions, and you've made it to the end of the video. So again, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more gaming commentary just like this. As always, I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.